At dawn on February 29, 2024, Quincy Promes woke up in a luxury apartment complex in Dubai, believing, at least outwardly, that the long chase had bought him more time. By mid-morning, that illusion was gone. Police officers arrived quietly, without spectacle, and placed the 32-year-old Dutchman under arrest. There were no flashing cameras, no crowd of fans, no stadium lights. The man once celebrated for speed and confidence now stood still, facing the consequences of years spent outrunning court summonses, investigators, and his own private denials. The arrest marked the moment when the case against Quincy Promes stopped being an abstract legal threat and became a physical reality. What followed was not a single charge or a simple mistake. It was the culmination of two criminal convictions built on encrypted messages, witness testimony, forensic timelines, and years of procedural maneuvering. It was a story that began far from Dubai, in Dutch family homes and European ports, and ended with a total prison sentence of 7.5 years hanging over a public figure who had once seemed untouchable. This is the case of Quincy Promes. On February 14, 2024, 2 weeks before his arrest in Dubai, the District Court of Amsterdam sentenced Promes in absentia to 6 years in prison for large-scale cocaine trafficking. Prosecutors alleged that between January 2020 and early 2021, Promes was directly involved in the importation of substantial quantities of cocaine through the port of Antwerp in Belgium. The case centered on 2 shipments, totaling approximately 1,360 kilograms of cocaine, concealed in sea containers arriving from South America. The drugs were intercepted by Belgian customs, but investigators did not stop there. Dutch and Belgian authorities coordinated to trace the network behind the shipments, following financial transactions, phone records, and encrypted communications. Promes was not accused of being a passive investor or a distant facilitator. Prosecutors argued that he played an active role in organizing logistics, coordinating contacts, and discussing distribution. The court agreed, stating in its verdict that Promes knowingly and intentionally participated in the importation of hard drugs on a very large scale. The quantity mattered. Dutch sentencing guidelines treat trafficking at this level as a serious organized crime offense. The 6-year sentence reflected both the volume of cocaine and Promes's alleged position within the network. The trafficking operation was not improvised. According to court documents, it relied on a structured network involving shipping companies, corrupt port contacts, storage locations, and trusted intermediaries. Containers were routed through Antwerp, one of Europe's largest ports, a hub long exploited by organized crime due to its scale and complexity. Investigators reconstructed how the network functioned. Contacts in South America arranged the cocaine's concealment inside legitimate cargo. Once the containers arrived in Antwerp, local operatives attempted to retrieve them before inspection or redirect them after partial clearance. Promes, prosecutors said, was involved in coordinating these steps from a distance, using trusted associates rather than appearing on site. What ultimately unraveled the operation was not a single informant, but digital evidence. Encrypted messaging services, believed by users to be secure, became the backbone of the prosecution's case. Central to the conviction were messages sent via encrypted communication platforms, including Sky ECC. These services were widely used in European criminal circles, marketed as secure alternatives to conventional messaging apps. Users believed their conversations were protected from law enforcement. That belief proved misplaced. In 2021, international law enforcement agencies gained access to Sky ECC servers, exposing millions of messages. Dutch investigators sifted through the data and identified accounts linked to Promes and his associates. The messages discussed shipments, container numbers, payment arrangements, and frustrations when operations failed. In court, prosecutors presented selected excerpts, arguing they showed Promes's knowledge of and involvement in cocaine trafficking. Defense lawyers challenged the interpretation, suggesting ambiguity and questioning attribution. The court was unconvinced. In its written judgment, the Amsterdam court stated that the messages, taken together with contextual evidence, demonstrated intent and participation. The encrypted chats were not isolated remarks, but part of ongoing operational discussions. Promes was not present when the verdict was read. By that time, he had already left the Netherlands and had not responded to summonses requiring his appearance. Under Dutch law, courts may proceed in absentia when a defendant deliberately avoids trial. The court noted that Promes had been properly informed of the proceedings and had chosen not to attend. His absence did not halt the process. Instead, it underscored a pattern that prosecutors would later describe as systematic evasion. The conviction carried immediate consequences. Although Promes was not yet in custody, the sentence was enforceable. Dutch authorities issued requests to locate and detain him abroad, setting the stage for extradition efforts that would soon encounter obstacles. The cocaine case was not the first time Promes faced criminal judgment. On June 5, 2023, the Amsterdam court sentenced him to 18 months in prison for aggravated assault, again in absentia. The conviction stemmed from an incident on July 26, 2020, at a family gathering in Abcoude, a small town near Amsterdam. According to the court, an argument escalated during the event. Witnesses testified that Promes stabbed his cousin in the knee with a knife, causing serious injury. The victim required medical treatment, and the wound left lasting damage. Promes denied the accusation, both publicly and through his lawyers. He claimed he was not responsible and suggested alternative explanations. Investigators, however, relied on witness statements, phone data placing him at the scene, and the consistency of accounts from those present. The court found the evidence sufficient for conviction. The sentence reflected the severity of the act and the breach of trust involved in committing violence against a family member. In both cases, Promes maintained his innocence. Following the assault conviction, his legal team announced plans to appeal, arguing that the court had relied too heavily on witness testimony and had not adequately considered contradictions. After the cocaine trafficking verdict, Promes again denied wrongdoing. Through representatives, he stated that he would appeal the 6-year sentence. Under Dutch law, appeals can be filed even when a defendant is abroad, though participation is more complicated. These denials were consistent with Promes's public posture over several years. He did not acknowledge guilt, nor did he voluntarily return to face sentencing. Appeals, while a legal right, did not suspend the immediate enforcement of the sentences once they became final. Promes's movements became a subject of scrutiny. After leaving the Netherlands, he spent time in Russia, where extradition to the Netherlands was politically and legally complex. Later, he traveled to the United Arab Emirates, a country without an automatic extradition treaty with the Netherlands. Prosecutors argued that these choices were deliberate. By residing in jurisdictions less likely to extradite quickly, Promes effectively delayed enforcement of his sentences. The courts noted this behavior when assessing his absence, framing it as intentional avoidance rather than coincidence. Dutch authorities continued to pursue his return through diplomatic and legal channels, but progress was slow. Extradition is rarely straightforward, especially in high-profile cases involving multiple jurisdictions. Requests must meet legal standards in the host country, and local courts may review the evidence in charges. In Promes's case, the process was further complicated by the timing of convictions and appeals. While the Netherlands sought his extradition following the assault conviction, the cocaine trafficking verdict added urgency but also complexity. Months passed without resolution. Promes remained free, at least publicly, reinforcing the perception that he had managed to stay one step ahead of the system. That perception changed on February 29, 2024. Promes was detained in Dubai, reportedly following coordination between local authorities and international law enforcement. While initial reports varied on the precise legal basis for the arrest, Dutch prosecutors confirmed that it was connected to efforts to secure his extradition. He was taken into custody and held while Emirati authorities reviewed the Dutch request. The arrest did not immediately result in extradition. Instead, it marked the beginning of another legal phase, one in which Promes's freedom depended on diplomatic negotiations and local court decisions. For the first time in years, he was physically restrained, unable to travel at will. Taken together, Promes's convictions amounted to a total prison sentence of 7.5 years, 6 years for large-scale cocaine trafficking, 18 months for aggravated assault. The cases were separate but intertwined in public perception. Both involved violence, betrayal of trust, and the use of status to shield oneself from consequences. Both were adjudicated in absentia, reflecting the same pattern of non-appearance. Dutch prosecutors emphasized that the sentences reflected not just individual acts, but a broader disregard for the law. Away from the pitch, Promes cultivated a public image that mixed luxury and family ties. He was known to share moments with relatives and partners on social media, projecting closeness and loyalty. The stabbing incident shattered that image, revealing fractures within his own family circle. Friends and acquaintances described him as charismatic but volatile, capable of generosity and sudden anger. The cocaine case added another layer, suggesting involvement in circles far removed from domestic life. These personal dimensions mattered in court, not as character assessments, but as context. The assault occurred at a family gathering. The trafficking messages often referenced trust and loyalty among associates. The line between personal and criminal life appeared thin. Although this account avoids detailing his football achievements, the impact of the convictions on Promes' professional standing cannot be ignored. Sponsorships disappeared. Clubs distanced themselves. His name, once associated with talent and promise, became shorthand for scandal. Media coverage shifted tone, focusing less on performance and more on court dates. Public opinion hardened. For many, the arrests and convictions confirmed suspicions, long whispered but never proven. Conviction in absentia is often misunderstood as symbolic. In Promes' case, it was anything but. The judgments carried full legal weight. They allowed prosecutors to pursue international enforcement and shaped how foreign authorities viewed extradition requests. The courts were careful to document that Promes had been informed and had chosen not to attend. This documentation became crucial when justifying continued proceedings without him. As of early 2024, legal processes continued, appeals were pending, extradition hearings loomed. Promes' ultimate place of incarceration remained uncertain. What was certain was the transformation of his story. From the day he was arrested in Dubai, the narrative shifted from evasion to reckoning. The courts had spoken, the evidence had been weighed, the sentences had been imposed. Whether those sentences would be served in full, reduced on appeal, or delayed further was a question for the future. The case of Quincy Promes is not a single mistake magnified by fame. It is a series of deliberate choices documented through dates, messages, and witness accounts, leading to two serious criminal convictions: large-scale cocaine trafficking, violent assault against a relative, years of denial, strategic absence, a final arrest far from home. 7.5 years of prison time stand as the formal response of the justice system. Beyond that lies a damaged reputation, fractured personal relationships, and a cautionary tale about how quickly privilege can erode when confronted with evidence. Thanks for watching. This is a case that raises hard questions about choices, accountability, and consequences. What do you think about the Quincy Promes case? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you found this video informative, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you do not miss future deep dives.